Now, welcome along. We're going to talk rugby. We have Cian Tracey here in the studio. Later on, we're going to talk to Anna Capeless as well about the Women's Six Nations, which reaches its crescendo on Sunday, Aviva Stadium. Just shy of 30,000 through the gates at the Aviva Stadium for Ireland-Scotland. Meanwhile, URC, we are in the final weekend of the regular season with quarters and semis and final to come. Our rugby coverage, as ever, is sponsored by Energia. They are proud to support Irish rugby all year round, from the club game right through to the international stage. And like we said, we are going to talk to Anna Capeless later on in due course. 27,000 plus coming on Sunday. Should be a great atmosphere. There are family-friendly fan zones, and Energia will be there with a sign-making station as well. If you want more information on that, then you can check out their social channels. Energia, think of the possibilities. Cian Tracey, welcome.
Hey, Joe.
So we're here, the final round of the regular season. We've meandered our way through, and it's all finely poised in many ways. Or to boil it down, 9 into 8 is the problem. Ulster play Glasgow, Edinburgh play Connacht, and then on Saturday, those two games are on Friday. So Ulster, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Connacht are on Friday. On Saturday, Leinster at home to the Ospreys is 5:15, and then Munster at home to the Lions is 7:45. Nobody wants detailed permutations in their ears right now, so we'll just keep this very short and simple, and we can watch the games unfold. Connacht are 1 point outside the top 8, albeit it's nicely condensed. I mean, 5 points separate Connacht from the Bulls in 4th. And so, in effect, Connacht will most likely have to do the business away to Edinburgh and then see what happens in the Ulster game, Cardiff game, Munster Lions games. But they've got somebody in their sights. So there is definitely a chance that Connacht and I guess all 4 provinces could make the top 8. Half decent chance.
Which would be the dream scenario, obviously, from an Irish rugby point of view. But I think, as a whole, like the URC has just gone from strength to strength since the big South African teams have come into it. I know there are still logistical issues with that in terms of crossing hemispheres and that, but in terms of the competitiveness, it's just been absolutely brilliant. And I think this year's season has probably been the best, really. Certainly the regular season, the playoffs are shaping up really well. And yeah, like I said, if all 4 Irish teams can get into the top 8, that would be the dream scenario. Cardiff are the ones you're probably looking at there to potentially drop out. I mean, like even you look at Connacht, they've won 7 of their last 8 URC games. Remarkable run of form, and to think that they could win, like I would fancy them to win in Edinburgh, who don't have anything to play for. That would be 8 and 9, and for them to potentially not get playoff rugby would just be a sickener to the Stuart Lancaster project that is absolutely humming. I know we'll get on and chat about that. Obviously, it's worth, people, listeners, I'm sure, are well aware of it now, but it's worth reminding everyone that if Ulster were to drop into 9th and if they were to beat Montpellier in the Challenge Cup final next week, they would take the last Champions Cup place for next season. So that is something to bear in mind as well if Ulster were to drop into 9th this weekend.
Yeah. I know you were at Connacht 26, Munster 7 at the weekend. As you said, that's 7 wins from 8 for Connacht. They're certainly paying the price for their 2 wins from 9. It's taken a while for the Lancaster effect to take hold, which is understandable and fair, I think. It's certainly cooking now. 26-7. So impressive, worthy, comfortable winners, everything the scoreline suggests.
Absolutely, yeah. If they took a while to get the bonus point, and if they hadn't, it would have been a travesty from a Connacht point of view, because they were just head and shoulders above them. And yeah, I was down in Galway twice last week, Joe, for their press day on the Tuesday, and chatted to Dennis Buckley, who's played his last game for Connacht and was at the game on Saturday. And to say the vibes are good down there. Even on the Tuesday, I was sitting in the reception of the High Performance Centre, and there was people coming in renewing their season tickets, like genuinely while I was sitting there. I saw Connacht have said that over 91% of their season tickets for next season have been sold. The match day experience, it was my 3rd time down at the Dexcom since they've done up the Clan Stand. I was there in the opening night against Leinster. I was there for the Women's Six Nations game a few weeks ago. And I was there on Saturday as well. The match day experience, now granted I am in the press box, I'm not down amongst it, but it's just an amazing job. It's worth bearing. It's worth repeating again. It's the job they've done is absolutely fantastic. So they've sorted out their house off the pitch and on the pitch. It's going really well as well. There wasn't a ticket to be got last week for the Munster game. Like I said, season tickets are going really well. And yeah, like there are good things happening. Like you said, they're paying the price a little bit, but I think that's understandable in to a certain degree, because when Stuart Lancaster came in, we know that he coaches both sides of the ball, and defence was clearly Connacht's issue for the last couple of years. So he came in and he definitely put more of his focus on the defence, and that's bore fruit in terms of like their defensive record is just vastly better than it was last season. And you look at
Great stat just on that, just to mention, seeing as you bring up defence, because that has been the issue.
mm,
So their first 9 games, they conceded 220 points, which is 24 per game, whereas in the last 8, they've gone from 220 and 9 to 136 in their last 8. So effectively, if you take the average, it was 24 points a game. They've cut that to 17.
mm.
There are not many teams who cut what they're conceding on average by 7 points within the space of a season. It's a quantum leap.
Absolutely, and they nearly nilled Munster at the weekend. Munster got a consolation try pretty late on, so like that's how good their defence was. And I think,
So Lancaster does both sides of the ball.
yeah, he's very unique in that regard. That's like reading between the lines. They've actually just announced this morning a new backs coach. Jared Mullen is coming in from Harlequins, because if you think back to this time last year, they'd signed Rob Sieb from Australia, but that was before Stuart Lancaster was appointed head coach. So I would like Rob Sieb is going to Leicester Tigers, is my understanding, but that wasn't the gig that he signed up for when the head coach is coming in to coach the attack as well. Lancaster would be pretty unique in that regard, that he coaches both sides of the ball. That's not to say Rob Sieb has done a good job with the Connacht attack this season, because he absolutely has. But Lancaster has put more of a focus on the defence. But the fact that Connacht haven't lost, what I would say is their identity. Like, they've been playing thrilling rugby. Go back to like when Nigel Carlin, who's with Glasgow now, go back to like that long ago under Andy Friend. They haven't lost that while improving the defence, which I just think is a mark of Stuart Lancaster as a coach. I mean, the backroom team, they're losing Cully Tucker, which is a big blow. He's the scrum and contact coach. He's going to take over as the Ireland under-20s coach. But you look at the job that he's done on the Connacht scrum, Billy Bowen and Sam Illo in particular. Like, what Billy Bowen is doing at 20 years old is like, it's remarkable.
He's a loose head.
He's a loose head, yeah. He's 20 years old. He's from Leinster. Didn't get a place in the Leinster academy, and Stuart Lancaster was well aware of that. And he came just before he came in. And that is going to happen, I think, more and more, Joe, because of Stuart Lancaster's connections in Leinster. That if guys don't make the academy, then they'll pick up extra guys. But Connacht are producing their own players as well. But on Billy Bowen, I saw him a couple of years ago. He's playing for Newbridge College, and I had been told about him before the game. I was actually doing a bit of commentary in the game. It's the only time I've ever done commentary.
We'll dig out the tapes.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Co-commentary, I should add. But it was very obvious even that day to me how good he was. And Leinster haven't allowed too many top-class players to slip through the net. Tyg Byrne is the obvious one, but I think this guy is one in a few years who they'll wonder if they should have done more to keep him. I know they have the likes of Paddy McCarthy, Jack Boyle, Andrew Porter, who are all outstanding props. But I was talking to an ex-prop at the game actually on Saturday, and he told me that he reckons Billy Bowen is a guaranteed Lion, future Lion.
Oh, wow.
So he's remarkable. Like, the way he's scrummaging for a 20-year-old, like generally props take a lot longer to mature, but it's how comfortable he is in the ball, and he fits the Irish mould of a prop being able to pass the ball at the line. Absolutely exceptional. So the future is very bright. I think Sam Illo is worth a mention on the tight head side as well.
He's 25, Sam.
Yeah, 25. Also would have come through the Leinster system. Went to Wesley, I think, Wesley College. And I think just a bit sort of shy. It's taken a while for him to come out of his shell, but he has a real mean streak to him now, which I think is a hallmark of this Connacht pack in general. And I think both of those guys are going to be putting their hand up for Ireland selection even this summer. So the future really bodes well for Connacht in that regard.
Okay, so they've managed to swoop in and take 20-year-old Billy Bowen and 25-year-old Sam Illo, both of Leinster and now doing it for Connacht very well in the front row.
Sam Illo has been with Connacht for the last few years. It's worth highlighting, and I go back to the job that Cully Tucker has done. He is a big loss in terms of the young props. It's easy to see why they are if you want him working with the 20s.
I'm seeing really good things as well about Harry West at 13.
Yeah, like he can play all across the back line, which is a remarkable trait again for someone so young. He played outside Bundyaki at the weekend. He is, off the top of my head, I would say 23, 22, 23, so still very young. He's played fullback, he's played on the wing. And again, I go back to Stuart Lancaster, and you think of the job he did in terms of getting the likes of Gary Ringrose, Hugo Keane to come out of their shells. Remember that comment that he made that the Leinster dressing room was quite quiet? I think we're seeing that in Connacht as well. Sam Illo is a really good example. Harry West, there's absolute gems, and Harry West is from Ballina, so like he's very much homegrown, and they've put a big focus on that as well. Green shoots to green shirts, I think, is their logo.
Yeah.
And it's not about, obviously they need to tap into the likes of the Leinster lads, but they're really putting a big focus on their homegrown players as well. But Harry West, he did a sensational break in the second half of the game last weekend, the way he weaved through the defence. I think their back row, this is something I'm writing about at the moment, their back row is a back row that they can build their pack around for the next few years. Cian Prendergast was exceptional at the weekend. He is going from strength to strength, had a really positive Six Nations as well. Seamus Hurley-Langton, there was talks that he might be leaving because at a Connacht are signing Will Connors, who plays obviously in his position in the open side, but they managed to find a bit of extra cash in the budget to keep him, and that is a brilliant piece of business. I think a lot of French clubs were lining him up, and Sean Jansen has been the standout player for Connacht this season. He has been exceptional. I mentioned the game against Leinster in the opening night. He outplayed Caelan Doris that night. He was the best number 8 on the pitch. He was head and shoulders the best number 8 on the pitch last weekend as well. He's played 2 games for Ireland A, or the Ireland 15, whatever they like to call it now. I'd be shocked if he doesn't get capped this summer when Ireland go down to Australia and New Zealand.
God, it's all, if they can nip into the top 8, then it's a stunning season. Even if they don't, I guess, because of how they finish, they're just poised next year, and Kieran Frawley's going to drop in, and it was such a shrewd appointment to get Lancaster, and it's now paying dividends in a way that they just would have hoped for in every way. So that's great for Connacht. By contrast, Munster, 7 points. Talking to Will earlier in the week, he said, once he saw a Munster team shorn of Crowley and Byrne, borderline, I was like, well, that's a home win for Connacht. So their squad is weak. They have they to be fair to them, like the players have sort of plucked what was a messy situation out of the fire in recent weeks with some big wins. But just a result like that and the stuff off the pitch, it's amazing. It doesn't take much to go wrong for Munster for the vibes to go right back to fairly grim again. It's just a very dispiriting situation, and that's allied to the comments of Clayton McMillan on the eve of the game, which I interpreted as, I'm pretty much out of here unless I kind of get my way in a host of levels. For instance, when your coach is saying things like, I'm committed to the team until the end of the season, there's no doubt about that. Mm-hmm. What? That's not a very comforting line. And he said, in terms of staying into next season, he's in year 1 of a 3-year deal, there are changes I think need to be made to give me the confidence that I have the support to be able to do the job. So I need changes to give me confidence that I have the support, i.e., I'm not getting my way on certain things, and I need certain changes. I need to see things change for me to feel I've got everyone's confidence. Now, we don't know specifically what he's talking about. You would presume, borderline unilateral decision making over his coaching ticket is probably part of it. The Randall thing is blown up. I don't think he's ever going to be given that off the back of the Randall thing. So I don't know what else he's talking about. Identifying players, maybe. It's not like Munster have gazillions in the pot anyway to go out and get players he might want to prioritise. It just, again, on the eve of what turned out to be a very disappointing defeat, it just sort of rang as like, I'm gone. I mean, you go public like that. What's your read on what's going on?
There's a very good chance that will happen. I think Clayton McMillan is furious with how everything has played out, rightly or wrongly. Like, we've just spent the first part of the show praising Stuart Lancaster and the impact that he's made. Well, if you compare that to Clayton McMillan, it's been utterly underwhelming, you'd have to say, across the board. Munster started really well. They'd have 6 wins on the bounce, but that was at the time where they were they were still playing the old Munster way, that Mike Prendergast was still having a big say in the running of the attack. Think back to the game in Croke Park. That was the Munster that, they won a URC under. And as the season's gone on, and Clayton McMillan said that this was always going to be the case, that he was going to allow the coaches, the first few weeks, which makes total sense, and then he was going to implement changes. And apart from a couple of flurries here and there, they've been very disappointing, crashing out of the Champions Cup. I was over in Exeter for the Challenge Cup when they got absolutely hammered by Exeter. There's been a lot of bad days.
And to your eye, there's a new McMillan style of play versus what was there at the start of the season?
Well, I was going to make this point. I think Munster are struggling for an identity under Clayton McMillan, because I'm not sure what it is. They've absolutely moved away from the Mike Prendergast style of play. That's evidenced by the fact that Mike Prendergast is leaving to they Bath at the end of the season.
And that's a big thing, because they took 2-3 years to really get that going, and there were plenty of teething problems, and they worked very hard to kind of get that set in stone. So what are they about in attack now?
I think he wants to be more forward orientated. A lot of the things I hear about him behind the scenes is that he's very old school, and that you would have heard a lot of that in pre-season. Yeah. Remember, they were doing like hill running and swimming. That seems to be in his coaching as well.
Okay.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with a bit of old school at all, but I think you need someone with softer skills. And what I mean by that is, listeners will have seen plenty of interviews and heard plenty of interviews with Clayton McMillan. And he's been great from a media point of view, because he's straight up, he's no bullshit, he answers everything. Like you just read his quotes there, almost to his detriment. He's really, really honest. But his default setting is he's quite dour. He's an ex-policeman. I think he's quite strict behind the scenes. And I think the players have no issue with that. But I think one of the reasons why he was looking to bring in his own man, and my understanding was that Jason Holland was actually Munster's first choice before Roger Randall. Okay. And that would have been an amazing appointment. Jason Holland, if you remember, has just left the All Black setup. He went back to the Hurricanes, but he's now taking over as the Blues head coach from next season. My understanding is that for family reasons, other people in his family weren't too keen to make the move back to Ireland, but he would have been an amazing appointment. So then they switched to Roger Randall, and we don't need to get into the nitty gritty of the Roger Randall stuff again, but stuff you hear about from his coaching in New Zealand is that he's more relaxed, and I think there's a good cop, bad cop element, pardon the pun, with McMillan being an ex-policeman. And it really reminds me, Joe, of how the All Blacks head coach situation has just played out, because Jamie Joseph was one of the front runners with Dave Rennie, and the word from New Zealand seems to be the reason that Jamie Joseph didn't get the job was that he didn't have Tony Brown with him, who would have been the good cop to his bad cop. And I see elements of that with Clayton McMillan as well. And I'm just not sure if the old school methods has a bit of a shelf life. I think his next appointment, and I don't know where they're going to turn next, it could be Mossy Lawler, who's already there, needs to be someone, I think, to be able to lighten the mood, I think, behind the scenes, because just being so sort of straight-laced all the time in this modern world, we speak about Andy Farrell and his soft skills and how he's changed things up since Joe Schmidt left. I think it's a very important appointment and it's a big if at the moment, McMillan is still going to be in charge.
And it's absolutely fine if you don't know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it in case you do, because I know you've good contacts down there. Is the sense that Prendergast is moving on because he went for the top job, he didn't get it? Anyone who's had that experience, they often tend to move on. It's like, well, what's my future here if you guys don't rate me? Or is it more a case of he understood, okay, maybe it's not my time, and I'll go under McMillan in good faith, but almost his attacking ideas weren't being implemented? Well, if that's not happening, then I'm going to move on. There are different reasons to go. Do we have a strong set? Because Mike Prendergast isn't going to go public and tell us. Do we know which of column A and which of column B is looming larger?
I suppose I need to be careful with what I say, and because I don't want to speak for Mike Prendergast, but I would have a strong sense that Mike Prendergast felt undermined when he didn't get the head coach job. That I think whatever was being said to him behind the scenes, he was given a strong indication that if he went for the job,
he would get it.
That he would get it.
Okay.
This is a coach who, and this is...
So it's more that disappointment as opposed to, geez, this McMillan guy's not listening to me.
I think so, yeah, but okay. I think that is an issue as well. I don't think his attacking philosophy lines up with McMillan. You throw that into his bitter disappointment, because remember, he went public and he made no secret of the fact. So I think he was really disappointed with how that played out. Like, this is one of the big travesties in all this, that Munster are losing a fantastic coach in Mike Prendergast, who has already gone around the houses in France. You know, he's built up a really good CV, and now he's going to Bath and might not ever come back to Munster again, because I think he'll have felt burnt by this whole process as well. And like, people can argue, Joe, whether he wasn't ready to be head coach and all that, but my sense was that he felt like when he was going for that job, it was his to lose.
Yeah, okay. Well, to be fair, if he wasn't ready, he wasn't ready, but then don't give the guy the impression that we think you're ready.
That would be my sense.
Okay. And so, again, if you don't know, it's fine, because it seems like a messy situation. There's still a season here for Munster to try and rescue. Who's dictating the attack? Who's all over this? Who's looking at, God, we scored 7 points away to Connacht, let's get this right? Do we know who's really in charge?
Well, Mike Prendergast is still there,
but not implementing a strategy that he.
I would say he has had to make tweaks to Clayton McMillan's style of play. But like, and we have seen flashes of it. Like, I mean, they went to Benetton a couple of weeks ago and they scored some cracking tries. I think the harder weather has suited Munster. But it's all a bit of a mess, because like, you look at their defence as well. Like, their defence has gone backwards this season as well. They're losing Alex Codling, who is their line-out and forwards coach. So that's another appointment they're going to have to make. If McMillan leaves, you could be looking at another entirely new Munster coaching staff next season, albeit Dennis Leamy and Mossy Lawler are still there. So it's just an absolute mess, and it doesn't seem like it's finished here yet. There might be a little bit more road to run.
Okay. I saw it confirmed as well. Tucker Abrams is moving on. Promised so much, you'd see again in flashes.
And he is probably, Joe, a good example of maybe hasn't fitted what Clayton McMillan wants from a winger. You know what I mean? He's going back to the Bulls, replacing Kurtley Urensa, who's off to Japan. And crucially, my understanding is that Munster are happy to give up that NIQ spot, that non-Irish qualified spot, to try and get a tight head. Now, I don't know if they're going to be able to get the tight head that they want next season, because it's a World Cup year and any tight head worth their salt is locked into a contract. So it might be a case that they might have to wait till after the World Cup to get an international tight head. But that is my understanding, that they're giving up the winger spot to get a tight head, which would make perfect sense.
Look, that's been an issue for a long period of time. So how would you, again, for someone who's not watching much Munster and hasn't detected that shift from Prendergast into McMillan, I think you said at one point there it's a more forward.
I think that's what he would like it to be.
So what's McMillan's vision? Do you, in so much as you can kind of glean from the way they're playing, like the away win in Treviso? To be fair to him, you know, they were good results under pressure. How do you think he imagines this Ulster team, this Munster team playing on a good day?
I think he would like it to have a very strong set piece focus, which, as you just said there, Joe, has been an issue for a long time. They absolutely don't have that. We mentioned how good the Connacht scrum was. They took Munster apart last weekend. Their line out has been shambolic at times this season. You think back to the Sharks game over there a few weeks ago. So like, those pillars of what I would see as his game plan, a strong kicking game as well. I think Craig Casey is obviously a key part of that, but the drop off, like you were saying, you were chatting to Will earlier, the drop off from Jack Crowley to the rest of the out halves is just stark, really. And like, which
is not his fault.
It's not his fault. And like, I think there's going to be changes in the out half department next season as well, because like Tony Butler is a young guy who's been coming through. He hasn't got a look in the last while. I think my understanding is he's one of several players who's going to be leaving at the end of the season. So whether we see Keith Woods, young fella, being pushed through, who's actually been very good for the Ireland under-20s, he made his debut but that's not a ready-made replacement to step in and be the backup to Jack Crowley either. And like we've spent a lot of time talking about the coaching elements there, Joe. Like, at some stage the players have to step up here and take responsibility as well. For them to rock up in Galway last weekend for what was a huge game, like Gavin Coombs during the week was talking about you know, how Munster and Connacht despise each other, that they were ready for everything that was going to come with them. Like, so many of Munster's players drastically underperformed. Now, I think like that's on the coaches not having them in the right headspace. But like I said, the players have to take responsibility as well. Like, as good as Connacht are, they're not a Bordeaux, they're not a Toulouse. And at times they made them look like they were. So I don't think the players are culpable in all this either. They're very much responsible too.
Yeah. One last point of news this morning as we record on Tuesday. Munster have confirmed that they're going to have a review into the Roger Randall situation. We just chatted briefly before we started. My instinct when I saw a review was, well, this will just be one of these things that, takes 6 months and doesn't amount to much. You think this review could have teeth? You think there may well still be significant repercussions, heads potentially rolling or a head rolling down the line as a result of all this?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I can understand your skepticism in terms of when you see a review that they will all go away, and maybe it will. I might be wrong, but there is a lot of dissatisfaction in Munster. That you've seen that with the amount of resignations that they've had. Now, there's been lots of false rumours doing the rounds of people in current positions stepping down or being sacked and all that. None of that is true, and I don't think anything is going to happen until after this review. But like, we don't know if money has had to change hands in terms of Roger Randall, who had signed a contract with Munster. If so, who's bailing? Like, are they need to be bailed out by the IRFU? We don't know any of this. Like, what do the IRFU really think about how this was handled? I'm sure they're going to be involved in the review as well. And like, Munster have arrived at a situation now where, because of the resignations, their professional games committee they effectively have none, because so many people have resigned from it. The commercial advisory group, like, are they looking to replace all these people now? And that is very costly. I think their reputation has been damaged as well. Whether heads will roll remains to be seen, but I don't know if we've heard the last of it yet. And like I said, I could be wrong on that.
Okay. Leinster are 11 days out from a Champions Cup final. So
bring it on.
Yeah.
It's a great week to look forward to.
They beat the Lions 31-7. It's worth saying that was 14-7 with 10 minutes to go. A very strange scoreline if anyone got up and left it after with 10 minutes to go from 14-7 to 31-7 winners. The Lions, really tore into Leinster, had no respect for them. So it was, very kind of feisty, engaging game. And they've got the Ospreys this weekend coming, and then Champions Cup. So in terms of like team selection and the various machinations here, what are you looking out for on Saturday against the Ospreys, aside from winning, with a view to what they're going to do in 11 days' time, or does it have no bearing in your mind?
No, it definitely does. They've already confirmed, obviously, their top 8 spot, but there is a world where Leinster could finish top here of the URC, and that comes with huge advantages, obviously, in terms of home advantage in the quarter and semi-final and the run through. So it's a big game. Like, you saw a couple of key players playing last weekend, like James Ryan, Jamie Osborne, Hugo Keenan coming off the bench. I would imagine it'll be mixed up again, but you'll see much more of the stronger guys coming in. Now, look, that didn't exactly work when they did it in the build up to the Toulon games. Remember, they lost to Benetton and were really poor, because I would imagine if a lot of those frontliners played this weekend, what's in their head is, I just have to get through this game unscathed. I do not want to miss the Champions Cup final. Do
you think that was a factor in the Toulon performance, the performance before Toulon?
Yeah, absolutely. Against Benetton, yeah, for sure. Benetton got a big reaction. They'd been desperately poor against Munster the previous week. Absolutely. I don't think players would be human. Like, I think all of us would be like that, wouldn't we? You want to get to a Champions Cup final. You don't want to pick up an injury in, albeit a league game that's important, but you're pretty comfortable in your league position. So there'll be an element of that, I would say, for sure this weekend. I think the team that will play next week is largely settled, but for the couple of injuries that are... The injury update was quite positive yesterday for Leinster, like Jack Conan coming back into the mix, James Lowe. I don't know if he'll have done enough to get into the Champions Cup side with the lack of game time. Paddy McCarthy, which is a huge boost as well. Robbie Henshaw as well. So whether they look to give guys like that a bit of game time to try and prove their fitness in time for the Champions Cup, I'm not sure. But realistically, this is a game that Leinster should pick up 5 points, and in doing so, like, no injuries. That is the big thing for them right now. And that was a really good win last weekend. Like you said, the Lions tore into them. Look, the Lions have been the surprise package of the URC this season. They're going to Thomond Park at the weekend. That is a very dangerous fixture for Munster. They do have the advantage when they're playing at home and playing at altitude, and they do use that to their advantage, obviously. But they were very good, and I think Leinster deserve credit for how well they played. I thought Rico Ioane was very good again.
He's found his feet, hasn't he?
Yeah,
Sorry.
about time.
I'm talking about a New Zealand international, but he's found his feet at Leinster.
Yeah,
Point.
He's been very good in the knockout stages of the Champions Cup, and he was very good again last weekend.
Sam Prendergast, up for discussion again. His place in the 23 in Bordeaux. There seems to be a growing consensus. You have to go with Frawley in that 23 for any number of reasons. Prendergast had that very eye-catching defensive lapse against Toulon, which could have been so costly. And it's kind of become a thing in rugby now, and social media in particular. A bad effort at a tackle tends to be clipped up and go viral as OTT, but certainly it's picked up upon. And there was a really bad effort at a tackle at the weekend just gone, where, I mean, if people haven't seen it, it's a brilliant solo effort, and he's chasing back, but the guy does come into his orbit, and even if he didn't want to tackle high, he could have tackled low or wrapped his arms around him, and sort of kind of keeps his arms almost.
Bad technique.
And it is. I couldn't. How could you even? You'd have to ask, how could he imagine him being able to tackle with his arms by his side, and he's just kind of fended off and, flung to the ground. Luke Fitzgerald, who has said this is kind of a weakness that a team can't carry consistently right the way through. This can't be tolerated. You can't carry it. You can't allow for this. He was talking about it on the left wing yesterday with Will and Rudd. So here's just a sense. Here's Luke talking about that tackle and just about the issue generally. And to be fair to him, he did say it with like reluctant, heavy heart. But he kind of said, "This is not. There's no signs of this getting better, and this is really dangerous now for Prendergast's career."
I hate being in this position every week, but you leave me no choice. Like, I have to say what I see. I look back at that incident. I was like, that's weird how that collision happened, and I was like, I slowed that down to the point of contact, and he's got his arms together, like he's like, and looking away. I was like, this is rugby. Like, you have to enjoy contact, otherwise you're never going to be the person, I don't think, to bring Leinster back to the top table, to the top of the European game, and it's disappointing. Like, I'm just getting more and more worried about it. Like, I would have thought that, you wouldn't be having these instances when people start calling you out. But I made the point about Luke McGrath. Like, Luke McGrath is 5'7" or 8" or something. He's not a big guy, but look how he puts himself about. He wants it. If you want to be a winner, you've got to put yourself on the line, guys. I just think there's no place for it in rugby. You cannot hide. You can't hide someone like that. They'll just always let you down.
Where is he, do you think, with a view to the 23 against Bordeaux?
Oh, I would agree with the general consensus. I don't think he can be in the 23, and I think the selection last weekend showed which way the Leinster coaches are leaning. Because you don't often see Hugo Keenan named on the bench. He was on the bench to allow for the scenario that arose on the hour mark to take Prendergast off and to move Frawley from 15 into 10. Leinster at this stage are not giving Frawley game time at 10 to further his career as an out half, because he's going to Connacht at the end of the season. And the more you think about that decision, I mean, that could be one that they could live to regret as well. Like, Connacht are getting a fantastic player in Frawley. But the difference that Frawley made, Joe, was obvious when he went to 10. And for a guy who's played so little there, I think is a mark of how good of a rugby player.
He's quality.
Just quality, yeah. Like, his ability to square up defenders, take the ball to the line, which, to be fair, is like something that Sam Prendergast is excellent at as well. But Frawley is a big body. He'll put himself in the way. And I just don't think there's any way that Sam Prendergast is going to be on the bench.
Because it's been such a costly season for Prendergast in many ways. When you think he was in pole position at the at international level, let alone Leinster level, and then post Six Nations, there was kind of let him go back to Leinster, away from the attention of international rugby, and kind of rehabilitate things a little bit and grow into the season. But actually, the Toulon game or the defensive issues that we saw at the weekend, if anything, it's kind of heightened again. It's now, worrying is the way Luke Fitzgerald puts it. Like if he doesn't fix this, as Luke said, you can't carry it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Prendergast is very aware that this has been a criticism for a long time. You know, during the Six Nations, he was doing interviews with you guys saying, "Listen, people are going to see I'm strong, and I'm going to tackle." You know, it's strange to even use these kind of basics. So he's hugely aware of it, and yet here we are, 1-2 years into this thing. So I don't know. Do you share Luke Fitzgerald's worry that this could derail his career now?
I do, because, like you said there, it's not getting any better. I actually think it's getting worse in many instances, which is a deep concern. Because you'd imagine, like, he's got a guy like Sean O'Brien, who's Leinster's contact skills coach, and I'm not going to compare Sean O'Brien's tackling technique to Sam Prendergast, but he's surely got a guy there who can teach you a really good technique. And I've no doubt that Sam Prendergast is spending a lot of time working on this, but we're just not seeing the evidence, enough evidence of it. And I think it's been sad, really, to watch, because, like, he's a young guy who's, you know, like you said, those viral clips, and they are going viral within the rugby community. Like, that is, like, very tough for a young player who has been thrust into this position, like, probably sooner than I think in hindsight we can safely say. And I think, like, Luke has been very strong on this all along, and, like, when an ex-player who's not that long out of the game is that strong, I think, like, that gives you a very good indication of what the pros think of this. Because it's all well and good me and you sitting here and pontificating, why isn't he tackling that big Lions back row? Do you know what I mean? But when it's an ex-player, I think it carries more weight in terms of what possibly is being felt in the dressing room. Because if Sam Prendergast is missing his tackles, Joe, it means that someone else has to cover for him. And if someone else is covering for him, they can't focus on doing their job. And that just has a ripple effect right throughout the team. And I can understand why, you know, the coaches are trying to, you know, put an arm around him and play him back into form. But if they were to have him on the bench in Bilbao next week, and Harry Byrne goes down injured after 5-10 minutes, and you're up against a guy like Matthew Jalibert who will just run through you for fun, not even one of the big forwards, then is that really the best decision for Leinster Rugby to win a Champions Cup? I don't think anyone can sit here and say it is. So I think we might see Frawley get more game time again this weekend at 10. Harry Byrne possibly come back in, and you might see a scenario where Frawley's at 15 and switches again for another 20 minutes. And if that goes well, I think that would surely cement the decision for Leinster. And it also means that if Frawley's on the bench, Joe, you can go 6-2 next week against Bordeaux if you want. Now, they might not want to go that way because Robbie Henshaw could be back in the mix, and they might want to go with a big centre as Ireland have done, but Frawley just offers you so much more as a bench option.
Okay. Are there any other burning selection issues for Leinster?
Well, the fitness of Tadhg Furlong, I guess everyone be watching out for. Thomas Clarkson has been exceptional this season and was outstanding against Toulon. They would definitely hope that Jack Conan would be fit. Their bench against Toulon wasn't the strongest, and we saw that as well in terms of the impact that the Toulon bench made. Bordeaux have a very, very strong bench, so stating the obvious, but the more of those guys who are injury doubts at the moment Leinster can get back, it's more so to load up their bench rather than the starting 15. But I think it's pretty settled. I think it nearly picks itself in most parts. It's just getting a couple of those guys on the bench.
Okay. Cian Tracey,